Heel eng hoor.
Koud vooral, weet je. Nee.
Ik heb nog steeds de muts.
Kappel.
He's stopping on the first floor so that the lift can change gears. There's a different angle of attack to get to the second floor. The doors won't open here. You can get off on the first floor via the elevator on your way down.
Het wordt nu echt allemaal, dat is er waarom niet, hè? Dat is allemaal alles wordt gemeten en gedaan met dingetjes. Een tweede. Hola.
Kijk, die is mooie staan.
So just look at how thin all of the iron is. And then when the lift stops, you're not going to go where the lady or the man out here telling
Voilà
the
le
lady tells you
deuxième
to go.
étage, messieurs dames.
We're
Pour
going
les
to go
personnes
right.
qui vont au sommet,
We gaan naar
vous
rechts.
devez changer d'ascenseur s'il vous plaît. And this is the second floor, the people going up. You have to change lift.
Bonjour, deuxième étage, la visite s'il vous plaît.
Everybody gets off of
visite,
it.
s'il vous plaît.
We moeten naar rechts.
Voilà, vous êtes au deuxième.
Make sure that I've got all you guys. So my group this way, we will scoot around this group of people here who are waiting for you to go down. We will walk past the toilets, so it's good to know there are toilets on there.
Tu envoies n'importe quoi.
Exit.
Tu envoies n'importe quoi.
Past these yellow stairs. Try to group up. Where we're going.
C'est pas grave, on trouve les ascenseurs pour les gens. Kijk, dat is waar wij gisteren waren.
So everyone survived the elevator ride? More or less. Technically you used me, so I got you through your skip the line, got you through security, so if at any point now you wish to head off and do your own thing, that's fine, again, as long as I get the headset back. We are good, I don't want to make you freeze.
Papa, kunnen we ook met de lift naar boven?
What I can do, staying with me, is point out a bunch of important monuments that we can see from the tower. And we'll kind of start left and then we'll scan our way right. So the first monument that I'll point out is the Arc de Triomphe. Can you see it sticking out from the city over there? It's a bit, it's the same color as all the rest of the buildings.
See? Hier, zie je het? De Arc de Triomphe, Marcel?
Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte was built to celebrate all of his military victories, perhaps history on but if you look at a map of Paris, you can see that the Arc de Triomphe right in the view of the city. It doesn't like line up with the river or it's not square with a lot of things, but it's built in a very specific point in the city. So if you were to walk from the left-hand side of the arch, under the arch, you walk down the Champs-Élysées, you would walk through another little arch in front of the Louvre, so you walk through the Louvre. And if you continued going straight, you would eventually get to the exact center of Rome. Napoleon wants to just see if look down here, you see that bridge is quite ugly. On the left-hand side of that bridge, there is an intersection, a white line. You also look to the left-hand side of that intersection, you can see some cars coming out of a tunnel, or one car coming out of another car. With a bright light right at the corner. Right above that entrance, behind those dead trees, is a little gold flame. Quite hard to see, but believe me, it's an exact replica of the flame that the Statue of Liberty was given to Paris as a thank you from the United States because France helped fund the restoration of the Statue of Liberty in the 90s. But that tunnel that we've got just allows you to avoid that intersection. That tunnel is called the Tunnel de l'Allemagne, and that is where Lady Diana had her fatal car accident. Right under that gold flame, it's become an impromptu memorial to Lady Diana. Then if we scan right,
Prinses Diana is in de tunnel die daar ligt.
So that is one of my favorite buildings in Paris. It is the Grand Palais, the Big Palace. It was built for a World Fair that Paris had. The most successful World Fair that the world has ever seen. 32 million people came to that World Fair in 19. I think that today Paris sees about 30 the same number, 100. So it was used for that. It was the first building to ever have electric lights in Paris. So that's why it has the glass roof to show off electricity. But do you know what it's used for today? So today there's a skating rink. Yeah. So it's used for events and art exhibits, but what else is it used for? Twice per year. Fashion week. So Chanel always shows in the fall fashion. Now then if you keep scanning right, do you see that flashing Ferris wheel? Yeah. In front of the flashing Ferris wheel is the oldest monument that Paris has. It's an obelisk with a little gold cap.
Oh yeah.
It is 4,600 years old and comes from the Temple of Luxor. So according to France, it's a gift from Egypt, but I'll let you ask the Egyptians what they think. And it is on a very important site.
Een obelix, links naast de reuzenrad.
The obelisk was there,
4600 jaar oud.
used to be called Revolution Square.
Zie je dat naar een puntje geopend?
So that guillotine that was located there was the one that chopped off Marie Antoinette's and Louis XVI's heads, but a year apart from each other. At the height of the French Revolution, one person was being guillotined per minute in France. So that was during the reign.
Slash week.
Do you guys know when the last time was that the guillotine was used in France?
It was in the 1900s.
It was in the 1900s.
Yeah,
when?
it was very,
1977.
Yeah, it was
So
very
incredibly late.
Yeah.
France was one of the last countries, last Western countries in the world to get rid of the death penalty. Got rid of it only in 1981. So right up until 1977, they were still chopping people's heads off here. Yeah. No death penalty.
1977 hebben ze hier nog mensen hun hoofd afgehaakt.
I lost.
Ja, misschien niet meer op openbaar, maar
Okay, now I got it. Thank you.
So then, if you guys look behind our flashing Ferris wheel, we have a big garden there. It's all the trees, so lots of leaves. But at the end of that garden, on our right-hand side, you can see a building that's a bit taller than the rest. It's a bit more yellow than the rest, and that is the Louvre. You guys make out the Louvre? Have you been to the Louvre yet? Not yet. So when you go, or if you've gone, keep in mind that the Louvre only shows 8% of its collection on a daily basis. 92% of its collection is loaned out to other museums or in storage. I love being a tour guide in the Louvre because the art is always cycling through. So it's really interesting to go through and you're like, oh, this piece of artwork hasn't been here for a couple of years. I've read about it, and they cycle through regularly. So the Louvre is great. Even if you've been to Paris 20 times, it's worth going. So then if we make a big scan right, you see our big gold dome right there. You can't see that, I don't know how to help you. That is a dome that has 8 kilograms of gold on it. It is called Les
8 kilogram goud.
Military Hospital that was built by Louis XIV.
Oh, dat is de invalide.
Underneath that gold dome is where Napoleon is buried. So Napoleon Bonaparte is buried under that.
De tombe van
And if you look
Bonaparte.
behind
Zijn we gisteren
the
geweest?
spire, do you see that there are two towers behind it that are quite round, connected by a corridor? That is a church called La Saint-Sulpice. And do you know what Saint-Sulpice is famous for? Have you read the Da Vinci Code? Have you seen the Da Vinci Code? The Rose Line. Back in the day, France and England were competing for creating a standard time. There was a Greenwich Mean Time, and there was the Rose Time. And the Rose Line goes through that Saint-Sulpice over there. So in Europe, that's what dictated the time. Then if you take your eye and you go to the top of the spire, of our gold spire, and you stand left with your eye, you come across the two little towers of Notre Dame. And that is the exact center of Paris. So Paris was born there. And then if you look directly across the way, we have quite an obvious building over there on top of the hill. So that is the Sacré-Cœur. And it is in an area that has a very long history in Paris. It goes back to the year 250 when Paris got its first bishop. So Paris's first bishop was Dennis. And Dennis was to spread Christianity in the area. So Dennis was spreading Christianity, and 4 years after he arrived, the Romans discovered him. And you think the Romans liked that? No, so they decided to punish Dennis. What was the punishment? To behead him. So they said, Dennis, you're spreading Christianity. We are going to take you up the tallest point in the area, which is the hill across the way. And when we get to the top, we are going to chop your head off. But the guards bringing him up were a bit lazy and like, meh, halfway up. Oh God, that's good enough. So they chopped his head off there. But what happens to a head when it gets chopped off halfway up a hill? It starts to roll down. Very swift response here. And Dennis was like, I don't think so. So he bent down, picked up his own head, and then proceeded to walk for 6 kilometers to the area of Saint-Denis, where he handed his head to a Christian woman, lay down on the grass, and flowers spreaded out from his body straight away. So 100% true story, of course. I've seen the YouTube video.
Dat er een bisschop was die het christendom verkondigde en de Romeinen vonden dat niet leuk. En die gepakt en die zei van nou, we gaan hem onthoofden op het hoogste punt, op die heuvel. Waar de Sacré-Cœur is. Dus er waren daar, ja. En, maar er waren wachters die dat moesten doen, die dat moesten naar boven brengen. Die waren een beetje lui. Dus op de helft van de heuvel zijn ze dan, dat is ver genoeg hoor. En dan hebben ze daar zijn hoofd eraf gehakt. En dat rolde natuurlijk naar beneden. Dat is op een heuvel.
That's because most of the buildings in Paris are actually quite new. The majority were built during the 1850s and 60s by a city planner by the name of Baron von Haussmann. So Baron von Haussmann was hired by the city to clean up the city. So before the 1850s, Paris was one of the most medieval cities in all of Europe. It had really small streets that were only 2 or 3 people wide. So imagine that. What did that mean for Paris, having such skinny streets? It was dirty, hard to get stuff across the city, but what else could you do from a skinny street? Very good. By 1838, Paris had seen 3 revolutions since the Revolution of 1789. So by tearing the streets down and building wide boulevards, the army could come through and control the population. So Baron von Haussmann tore down 95%. He built all of these buildings. The streets of Paris, the wide boulevards of Paris, are 6
In de jaren 1800 hebben ze die grote boulevards gaan bouwen.
And have you also noticed, so they all have these courtyards in the middle? You can't see that when you're walking down the street. You can't see how complex these areas are. So you have your bedroom on the courtyard, so it's nice and quiet at night, but you have a bit of light in the morning to wake you up. You have your living space on the outside, so you have lots of light during the day, and so you can see what your neighbors are doing. But they're also all about the same height, about how tall the buildings in Paris.
En grote boulevards te bouwen, die heel breed waren.
Yeah, so the maximum that you'll see will be 8 or 9 stories.
95% van Parijs.
Some of the ones have additions on top. And Haussmann is the one who brought those laws in. So very practical. Why do you think?
90%. Alles,
Not
alles
fire.
plat gegooid.
What are these buildings built out of?
Nou, nee, met van natuurlijk, maar wel die zijn opgeruimd.
You got the limestone from mines underneath the city itself. If you build above about 8 stories in Paris, the buildings tend to collapse into the ground.
That's why they were so low.
That's why they're all so low. So those laws limiting the height of buildings in Paris were in effect for a very long time, until the most beautiful era of architecture in 1969 to 1973, when the ugliest building I can show you a nice view of the ugliest building. So what do you guys think of the ugliest building in Paris? It doesn't quite fit with Paris. It's the only skyscraper in the city. And when it was built, the people of Paris thought it was so ugly that the first thing they tried to do was get the tower torn down. It's called the Kuan-Chuan Tower. But it's all office space, so getting it torn down wasn't really a possibility. But what they did manage to do is to bring back the laws of the height of the building. And although the Kuan-Chuan is really ugly and ruined that district of the city that everyone calls Paris, it does have one really feature. If you go to the very top of the Kuan-Chuan, there is a restaurant with a viewing platform, and from there you can see beautiful views of Paris and there are the New York Times. Great view again. Oh, it's more expensive to go up to Kuan-Chuan. The other thing at the end of our shoulder mount, so